I have three sisters, and actually with the Tia Lola stories, it was just a boy and a girl. But what happens in the third book? Mommy gets interested in a man who has three daughters. And so 3 plus hers is how many? I said, what am I doing? I'm doing it again. I think, I always loved the book Little Women. I love stories about sisterhood, because I think, we know it very much in our Latino cultures that women really are the nucleus of the familia, keep it together, that mommy and your tias, they make it all work. They take care of the kids, they do the cooking. So that power of the women, that's often, people talk about machismo and the macho in Latino culture. I know that's there, and I've lived it, and I know it's there, but there's also something that is there too, which is the power and the strength of the women, the Latinas, and the mamis, and the tias, and the abuelitas, and that, is part of the rich heritage as a female Latina that we also have. Well, obviously I could have made it easy for myself and just had my 2 kids, and I added 3 more. I think one of the wonderful things to write about complex families is that until we came to this country, I didn't experience what a nuclear family is about. I always grew up with the idea of being one of many in a huge, extended, complicated familia. And so fiction feels more real to me when it's got that texture of many characters. And I think, writing is difficult, no matter if you have one character, narrating a story, or many characters interacting. But part of the thing is to try to understand each character, and then to let it evolve. And so for me, I don't know what to tell you about writing about many characters. It's like, for me, it would be harder to write about an only child, because that's not my experience. Even if I'm writing about a child that's an only child, he's soon on page 2 going to have a tia, una madrina, this is how we work, in our cultures. But I didn't grow up as a reader or wanting to be anything to do with writing, anything that smacked of being school. I was terrible. I will talk to the kids about that. Very poor student. Got in trouble all the time until I discovered reading through having good books put in my hands. Ay, qué bueno. I don't think there's prescriptions for writing, except, I do give some. I'm sorry, I'm lying. First of all, if you want to be a writer, you have to be a reader. You have to read. Those are your best teachers. It's like you absorb it. You get a sense of the rhythm of prose and a good sentence through reading. Reading is really important. It's how you immerse yourself in your craft. And the other thing is doing it. 99%, 1% talent, 99% applying the seat of the pants to the seat of the chair. How do I do it? It's crazy. I was just telling my agent, part of the thing that I find the hardest of all is protecting my writing time. Everybody wants you to have written, but not to be writing when they need something from you. If my sister calls me, I know you're there, pick up. I know you're there. I'm not, I'm working. If I were a brain surgeon doing an operation, nobody would think of interrupting, unless it's an emergency. But it's really hard to protect that space. And I've made choices that to the outside world, at different stages in my life, it seemed really crazy. Because I've given up, I gave up tenure about 10 years ago. I had tenure. I was a full professor. Do you know what? People say, you what? Especially because being a writer, it's like up and down. One book does well, next book doesn't. You get a nice advance for that one. People say, wow, you got that much money for a book. It took me 5 years to write it. This many hours. You do the math. I'm not even getting minimum wage for the time I put into this book, But I've known that this is the thing I'm meant to be doing. So I've made sacrifices to make time. So you say teach, I gave up tenure because in my school you had to teach full time if you wanted to retain your tenure. And I said, you know, I've been a teacher for 25 years who writes on the side. Now it's time for me to be a writer who teaches on the side. You know, so you make sacrifices, you know. You don't do some things that other people do that cost money. You learn to use the library. Reading is cheap, especially if you're using the library, but you make the time. And it's hard, you know, people want you, and then once you get published and people know your name, then they want you to come to their class, to do events for them, to be on their board, to read their book, to blurb their book, and you know, you can only do so much, because even that, you know, if you become a sort of celebrity, being a celebrity takes time, and that's the time. You constantly have to remember that why you are doing this is because the writing itself is your calling.